Excellent. So, Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Dear viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Shaykh. I'll be chairing this amazing session with three fabulous personalities and Imams from different parts of the UK. I have with me Shaykh Hassan from Gloucester, Shaykh Mohamed, Hammad from Coventry, and we have Sheikh Bilal Brown from today sunny Oldham. So just before we start the Q&A session, I just wanted to ask you what's been your experience with the COVID-19, this whole national and global lockdown. What's been your experience locally? How have the masajids and your local community coped with that? And how have you, as Imams, actually coped with this, huge crisis? Can I start with you, Hassan, first? Give us your experience and your thoughts.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, listeners and viewers. Basically, on a normal day like this in the month of Ramadan, we would have up to, let's say, 1,000 people attending the masjid. And it's 6:37 British time now. And around 6:37, usually every floor in the mosque is heaving with people. You'll have one floor where there's a lecture taking place, a second floor where people are reading the Quran, a third floor where people are preparing the iftar. So from those 1,000, local government have given permission for only 5 people to attend the mosque if they follow social distancing rules. So that's impacting 995 Muslims in the community. And from those people, certain people are impacted heavily. So for example, for those individuals who feel connected to the masjid, their heart lies in the masjid, they only feel at home in the masjid, who have been listening to Taraweeh for, let's say, 50 years in the masjid, they've been performing Jummah Salah behind the Imam. This is very difficult for them to take and accept. And I must admire the yearning that some of these people have. They've tried their best to find the second best option. So if you can't go to the masjid, what do you do? So they've been ringing me and saying, so you've got elderly people in their 70s and 80s saying, Imam, can you come to our house and lead the Taraweeh Salah? Imam, can you come to our house and lead the Jummah Salah? So I said to them, wait, hold on a minute. I'm volunteering. There's a high chance I've got some COVID symptoms. So if you want to die quickly, invite me to your homes.
Well, that could be literally 900 iftaris potentially.
You're missing out.
Imam privileges.
I know, mashallah. But you're right. I mean, that's an amazing number. And the facts speak for themselves. I mean, 1,000 people that generally would have come, they're now at home. And they must be feeling it. I think this is unprecedented. Thank you for sharing that. Hammad, what's your experience?
Yeah, from my experience, it's especially from a Ramadan perspective. Just echoing what Shaykh Hassan is saying, that it's incredible to see that how people are yearning to come to the mosque, and it's just so different for them. The entire Ramadan atmosphere for them must feel so strange, where you have the hustle and bustle of everybody getting together in the masjid, and all of a sudden, with a click of your fingers, it's no more this year, sadly. And you find that how people have just adapted to a secondary platform now, and it's incredible to see that how many of us are now engaging on online platforms. And the sheer amount of classes, lectures, or webinars that are available online is absolutely incredible. And you find that it almost might even kickstart some people's iman in trying to really, get their juices going in terms of learning and yearning for the deen more. So it has its pros and cons, and I think especially from the online platform perspective, where people have attempted, especially imams, spiritual leaders, where they are trying to promote that awareness, continue that learning circle as well amongst people. It's an uphill battle, but I think we are heading in the right direction in trying to make the best of what we actually have at the moment, I think.
Hassan, I mean, Hammad, I've also seen that you've used your time pretty effectively, not just in connecting with the Muslim community, but you've been very actively involved with helping the non-Muslim community. Can you share some of your reflections and activities on that one?
Yeah, I found that especially when the COVID-19 outbreak took place first, the first point of call for us was, and our first protocol was to ensure our entire local community was being well supported. And that both included Muslim and non-Muslim members of the community. So for that, we took the initiative immediately of having that outreach program already there in play, where we would reach out towards to vulnerable families, reach out in terms of preparing food packs, as well as provide that emotional support as well, because not everybody would require a financial supportage or collecting charity on their behalf, but simply pick up the phone or even have a friendly chat with them just to keep spirits high. So again, we didn't differentiate between Muslim and non-Muslim in that regard, but rather we opened our arms for everybody, because it's not just the Muslims that are going through this pandemic, it's everybody, and we're all in the same boat in that sense, and we're all here for the long haul.
Fantastic. Bilal, in sunny Oldham, I know I keep repeating that because it's such an anomaly. What's been your personal kind of, how has it personally impacted you, this COVID-19? I know you've got a fantastic new centre, you've got a large young audience that comes to visit you. How has it impacted you?
Yeah, it's been a blessing and a curse. So I'll just echo what Shaykh Hammad mentioned. One of the things that happened very early on is the masajid, they were a bit indecisive. So some of them said, no, we're going to continue Jummah until the government says we can't do it anymore. Some of them were a bit more proactive. I think we were late, and we can't be reactive. We have to be proactive in the future. But our senior Imams have shown great leadership, and it's brought Imams together, like the British Board of Scholars and Imams. They came together and they published, about 3 or 4 sets of guidance. Different Muslim organizations, they came together for the benefit of the community. And online classes as well. We've seen the Imams being forced to offer the education online, and the reach now is a lot vaster than they would have had before if they were just sat in the masajid or the madrasa. So in some ways it's been a blessing. We've seen the knowledge now disseminated to people who, because not everybody goes to the masjid. Even in Ramadan, there'll be people that it's just too much for them and they're not interested. But now that a lot of things are online, they're accessible for everybody now. So we've in some ways it's been a blessing. Locally, we've been helping it, like the non-Muslim community, handing out food packs as well, and doing whatever we can to support the whole community in Oldham as well. So the centre that you mentioned has been used for that throughout this pandemic. But yes, I hope that it'll be a means of bringing us together and working together more in the future.
Have you seen from your experience?
Can I follow up from?
Go ahead, Hassan. Go ahead.
Yes, so echoing from what Sheikh Bilal is saying, obviously COVID-19 had an impact on every single person in society. So you've got lots of people who under government guidelines were told to stay at home and isolate. People who felt they had COVID-19 symptoms were told to isolate. You've got vulnerable family members, let's say single parent families, who found it difficult to get their shopping done, or individuals who found it difficult to get their prescription collected from the pharmacy. They all needed support. So what we did from day one was, we've got 100 streets roughly in our area. So we invited Muslims to volunteer and take responsibility for one street. So for every street in area, alhamdulillah, we've got one rep, and every rep was told to make a leaflet, post it through every letterbox to say, we are here for you. If you need any help, shopping, medication, ring us, and we will drop it off to you. So alhamdulillah, until today, that method has been running very, very well.
Amazing, amazing. And the take-up from that, Hassan, was it mostly Muslim or non-Muslim?
Mostly Muslim.
But obviously, even that, that concept of doing khidmat, you know what's interesting is that during Ramadan, everyone does a khidmat for the mosque. But now the mosque is doing khidmat for the community.
If you look at the core message in Islam, what was Islam built on? Islam was built on good character. So for example, kindness, showing appreciation, loving one another, supporting one another. It's in a famous hadith where Rasulullah mentioned that we have not shown appreciation to Allah if we have not shown appreciation to the people around us. And showing appreciation means clapping our heroes, clapping at 8 p.m. on Thursdays, showing appreciation to frontline staff or carers or NHS workers. So that's why every single day we're also dropping of gifts and biryani, chicken biryani, to essential frontline workers. So today we dropped off 100 chicken biryani tubs to refuse collectors, who we commonly known as bin men or bin women, to keep them happy, to let them know that they are risking their lives while we are safe, isolating at home. We remember you and we thank you for all your efforts.
Subhanallah.
Makes me wish I'm an NHS worker now.
You didn't say you wish you were a bin man because they got the biryani today. Let me, Jazakallah Hassan, that's a wonderful story, and it's a true story. And showing this appreciation, there's that other saying of the beloved Prophet that whoever does not show appreciation to human beings is as if they have not shown appreciation to Allah. So, this is and in a society where people do appreciate being appreciated, it's very, very important that we are not left behind in showing the gratitude that, to these people, because they've done they're putting themselves on the front line, literally, and we've seen how many people from the NHS have died. The numbers are quite revealing. So I think what you've done there, may Allah bless you, may Allah bless your team for doing that. Let me quickly, if I may, we've got a short amount of time. Can I ask the first question? Obviously, we had many, many questions, people that have sent us over imamsonline.com. And we've chosen 5, and I'm not sure we're going to have time to go through all 5 from I think we had really about 60 questions. We've chosen 5 today. The first one is quite an interesting one, and it's pretty specific, I think, to this current COVID pandemic. If I may, question number 1. This is from a sister. Can I do a nikah with somebody during lockdown pandemic online? What is the Islamic ruling of doing a nikah online? So I'm going to come first to Bilal, as you're underneath me on this sign, and I feel this is disrespectful. You should be above on the screen. You should be above me. But Bilal, let me come to you, inshallah, with that question, if I may. Can, in this current situation, can 2 parties come together online, like we had? There's 4 parties from 4 parts of the UK. Can they do the nikah online? Over to you.
We're actually at the same level on my screen, so it's okay. There is a way to do it. There's a number of ways it can be done online. Somebody actually called me to do a nikah whilst this happened early on, and then they said they changed their mind. They said, "Oh, can we do it online?" I said, okay. Then they just decided to cancel it anyway. But there's a way to do it. So one way it can be done is so if the groom or the bride, they authorize somebody to do the nikah on their behalf, then that's one way it can be done. Because the nikah, it needs the offer and the acceptance. Then we need the 2 witnesses there at least, and the 2 witnesses, they need to hear the offer and acceptance. They need to hear the offer and acceptance. They don't need to be physically present, actually, for that to happen.
They could be outside
so there's an interesting Yeah, so one way they can do it is via agency. There's an interesting masala scenario that's mentioned in one of the Hanafi texts. So it says if a man calls out to a woman, this woman's in the house alone, so he calls out to her, you know, I married you, and there are witnesses with him, and she shouts back, you know, I accepted, then the marriage is fine.
Oh, sounds a bit like Romeo and Juliet. Man from the
So
woman on the balcony.
yeah, no, she's not even in the back. She's they can't see her whatsoever. But they know that she's alone. So as long as we know that it's her giving the acceptance or the offer, and the witnesses are here, that's okay. It can be done written as well. So another way they mention is that if somebody was to write to a woman the offer of marriage, and then she reads that out in front of the two witnesses and gives her agreement, then the marriage will be valid. So there's a number of ways that it can work. Yes, it's valid. But then what do you do after that, after the nikah? There's going to be a lot of lockdown. It may be best to wait until the lockdown is lifted, and then.
I mean, there might be two essential workers. But also, you know, I can see where you're going with that point. But in your opinion, doing the nikah online, according to Hanafi fiqh, you feel that there's enough parameters that can be ticked for that to happen?
According to any school, if it's done in the right way, it would be fine.
Okay. Brother Hammad, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with Shaykh Bilal there as well, because you look at the key components of a nikah. It's you have the acceptance, you have the dowry which is stipulated, and you have the witnesses present as long as these conditions are fulfilled, be it in person or online, and it's agreed upon with witnesses around, be it from the groom side witnessing it, from the bride side. For me, that also ticks all the boxes to materialize.
That's interesting. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And
again, I guess with everything going online now, it is the marriage season now anyway, isn't it? So things have been kickstarting. So people are looking for avenues to tie the knot. But again, are they even going to get to see each other up until the lockdown's over? That's a different question altogether now. So yeah.
I mean, obviously, to meet somebody face to face on Zoom without the nikah, that can't be halal. So having the nikah, at least and having the witnesses to say, yeah, we are married, then you can have that conversation. And
sure,
at least at that level, you can make the relationship online at least halal.
Yeah,
online at least, yeah.
Yeah, this is what they do in some of the Arab world. But it's a nikah, but they actually call it an engagement. So they'll do the nikah, and then the boy and girl, they'll talk for like a year.
Yeah.
And then they'll make the decision whether they want to go ahead with it. But they're already actually married, but they just call it an engagement locally.
Yeah, you're right. So is it called akad?
So what they do is they do the nikah, offer an acceptance and witnesses, and then they won't actually move in together. They'll just be talking for a year, the boy and the girl, to see if they're compatible. Then a year later, they'll have a big ceremony.
I've seen that even in the Indo-Pak Asian community as well. The actual nikah itself, it has been downplayed, and the more and what's really been highlighted, or they've actually have been married now, is the actual walima celebration, and the actual spiritual aspect of it, and the actual legal side of it is the actual nikah, which is the most fundamental part, which really has been kind of sidelined for many cultures, really.
Very interesting point there. Hassan, what's your view?
Let's say, for example, in the next in this 4 months period, let's say 10,000 Muslims were to get married in the UK. Those 10,000 Muslims, for various different reasons, would want to get their nikah done straight away. So obviously, Islam needs to find a balanced approach to meet their demands. Islam, people think, is very rigid, very hardline, that it's either this or else. It's either this or you get killed. But Islam is not like that. If you look at even some rulings such as, let's say you're in poverty, you're a poor person sitting on the street and you've got no food, you're in dire hunger, no one's brought you food, and suddenly one person comes along and offers you pork. What does Islam say? Islam says, don't die of hunger, eat that pork. So Islam gives a balanced approach in every single situation. And this is an extreme scenario we're facing, and I'm sure Islam would agree with what Shaykh Bilal and Shaykh Hammad has said, which is an online nikah.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very definitive yes to the sister. So sister, if you're listening, make sure you've got 3 choices, either Zoom, Skype, or Team, Microsoft Teams. So it depends on where you want to have that ceremony.
Make sure she sends Shaykh Hammad some biryani as well.
Thank you for the clarity on that. I think you've answered that really well, and I think it's quite clear that, look, if the options are there and the criterion are fulfilled, the systems are clearly in place to make that happen. So thank you for that clarity. Can I take you to question 2 now? Question 2 is again from a sister. She says, I feel more depressed during this lockdown, and my level of spirituality I can feel is also fading. Is there any tips for me to boost my spirituality and my connection to Allah? Shall I start with Hassan first, and then we'll go around?
Sure.
Okay, so the month of Ramadan is to connect ourselves with the Quran. So what I would encourage sisters and brothers and sisters to do is to either listen to Quran online being recited, because the Quran has more impact than anything else, especially more so in the month of Ramadan. And secondly, tune into online classes. There are, alhamdulillah, hundreds of shaykhs, hundreds of scholars up and down the country who are delivering online classes. So listen to the actual meaning of the Quran, read the translation of the Quran, and after understanding it through these lectures, inshallah, this will go a long way in helping us connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the best way to connect with Allah during this month is definitely through listening and understanding the Quran.
Jazakallah khair, Hassan. Shaykh Hammad, your views on this point?
My heart goes out to those really experiencing mental health issues, going through worries and anxieties, because it's something which a lot of us don't really want to address, and now it's increasingly finding a way to have these open conversations. Now it's ever more needed, and you find that this is something which it's embedded within the prophetic practices as well. Previous prophets went through anxieties, worries, difficulties, and you find that how through perseverance they came out on top. And you find that one of the ways which they tried to overcome their worries with their own communities was that to first challenge that obsessive negative thought and to look at things in a more positive light. And what I would suggest to the person who asked the question is to remind themselves, firstly, of the successes in their life, and think about those things which made them happy, made them feel proud of themselves, to have these thoughts refreshed in their minds. And you find that to really, especially now when it comes to these lockdown situations where we're just in our homes, where you wouldn't even address a situation, now that you have to try and do something about it, to try to engage yourself in something which will make fill your time. At the same time, it will release that anxiety. And what I mean by that is by engaging in a project, engaging in something which you wouldn't normally do. Learn a new skill to keep your mind fresh, keep your mind afloat, because a lot of anxiety is caused by lack of asserting control. And a lot of anxiety also comes when you're not able to manage the affairs and have lack of action as well. And that's where a lot of people are really finding it really difficult now, especially those single moms out there who find it very, very difficult. Those breadwinners of the house, you know, how they are struggling financially if they are. And you find that, you know, how exercise as well, it's great. You know, Boris's 1 a day, you know, a prescription, you know, it works wonders just to get your mind refreshed and just get that breath of fresh air back in your life. So so just to sum up, is to have that positive attitude in life, to engage yourself in a new skill, in a new project, and really look at your exercise, really look at the food that you're eating, and look at the diet which you have as well, because all of this play part and parcel of your emotional well-being, as your mental health well-being, and your physical well-being as well.
That's a really comprehensive answer. Bilal, Sheikh Bilal, anything to add to that point?
I think I can't really add anything. I'll echo what Shaykh Hassan and Shaykh Hammad said, and I'm a great patron of exercise as well. My wife, she goes for walks every day. I've got an exercise bike. I don't go out much when I can have time to use it. But I would also ask, what is it that you were doing before the lockdown that you're not doing now? Maybe have a look at that and try to implement those things in the best way possible whilst you're in lockdown. So something has changed, it seems, but maybe ask, what was it that I was doing before the lockdown that is different to what I'm doing now that's actually getting me down?
You know, the situation, say for instance, where you've got a large extended family, and say you've got 2-3 children, you're living in a small house, maybe you live with your in-laws. Before, during the day, people would go out, kids are at school, in-laws maybe wake up a little bit later. You've got this time to yourself. What would you recommend in the situation where literally now everyone's waking up at the same time, everyone's in the same house, and it's confined space? What would you recommend from a spiritual point of view? How do you create the space between you and Allah when there's all this noise and commotion around you? What tips would you recommend? I know Hassan came up with this idea of listening to the Quran. Would you have a tip for the sister?
I think I can only speak for myself, but you know, everybody's situation is different. So it's been a bit of a blessing for me because I've had more time with my children. I've been teaching them Aqidah and Fiqh at home, you know, regular classes. We're praying home as a family, reciting the Quran. We did some dhikr sessions as well at home with the family. So just try to do things together, I think, more at home, reading to the children and homeschooling and doing whatever we can. I'm just here with my wife and children, really. Can only experience. Like I said, it's been a bit of a blessing. I've had more time to do things with the family that I usually I'd be out of the house or, you know, teaching or at work or whatever, or busy.
So the children are counting their blessings with Corona then?
In some ways, yeah. But just try to do things together as a family.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. I think bringing families together is really, really important. I mean, one of the key facts, I'm not sure if you've heard, that domestic violence has gone up.
Yeah.
And would you want to make a point on that, Hammad?
Yeah, you find that the stats are staggering anyway when it comes to domestic violence. Whereas now, when you're stuck in the same home with your abuser, it's going to get a lot worse, and it becomes so much more difficult for those individuals. And that's why it's important for faith leaders and leaders out there as well to create, you know, to check in on certain people, certain individuals, and just ask about their well-being, just to have that friendly, open conversation as well with them, and just give them the support which they need, especially in this difficult time where they literally have nowhere to go.
Listen, just on this point as well, you know, I know you as an imam. I know you're one of the most busiest guys I know. You're not just working in the mosque; you're working in the interfaith circles. You're working with schools. How easy is it for women to contact you to discuss their mental health issues?
Obviously, most scholars will say they're probably receiving more WhatsApp messages today than ever before. Yes, in an average week or an average day, let's say we receive 50 messages a day, or let's say up to 2,000 messages a week on WhatsApp, including all the different group chats as well. All of a sudden, with people being isolated at home, people having more questions, people suffering from mental health issues or domestic violence issues, people will obviously contact us at a much regular basis now. So obviously we're replying to more people, but there's only so many hours in a day and so much time we can take for each person. So obviously things like, I've seen a lot of Muslim families join in with the Joe Wicks workout, his fitness regimes on YouTube. He runs it from 9:30. And I've noticed on so many Muslim families on their snaps, on their Instagram, they're joining in with this. And what this does is it breeds positive hormones. It keeps people happy. It keeps the family entertained. It keeps people fit. It helps with the mental state of people. And I'll mention something else when it comes to getting the family together. I met one student that I taught in Madrasa, and the child said to me, "I've not met my father in 3 weeks." So I said, where is he? He goes, "He lives at home." I go, "So you must have seen him last night." He goes, "He works, the shift that he works doesn't allow me to see him. He goes to work in the afternoon when I'm at school, and when I return home from school, he's at work. And when I go to sleep at night, he's still at work. He comes back in the middle of the night, and I'm obviously fast asleep. When he wakes up in the morning, I'm at school again." So he goes, he works 7 days a week, so I've not seen my father for 7 weeks. So for children like this, it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that finally they can spend quality time with their fathers.
That's a wonderful, that's a wonderful byproduct of this corona. He's probably, whenever he hears the word corona, he's probably bouncing off the walls with joy. Can I, time is...
Brother Shaukat,
can I please, I was going to say, because time is tight, could we finish with some positive stories before we end? Hassan, you've given a beautiful idea.
I need to leave. Au revoir from Middle England and heading over to sunny Oldham, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Hammad and Bilal.
Brother Shaukat, I just want to add on to what the question was.
Yes, please.
Have I still got you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. I just want to add on to the question which was posed. I think what's important now, where you have, in some households, you have 3 generations of people living in that same household. So some households will be absolute chock-a-block, day in, day out, with the kids, with the grandkids, grandparents. You know, it's not an easy place to be. But in terms of having your own downtime, especially when it comes to Ramadan. Ramadan is a month, you know, it's a month of stillness. It's a month of reflection where you just slow down your life and just contemplate and rethink, you know, where you are and where you want to be with God. And so I think when you're in a household with so many people, I think it's very, very important to create that masjid space at home. Even if it's in a corner of your home, or even if it's like a meditation spot for you, then the entire household will know, okay, you know what, whoever's is in this room or whoever's is in this corner, they know that it's time for peace and quiet for that individual, and we're not going to disturb them. And that way, it is a way, it's almost like a makeshift solution where you have in a busy household. I think that works quite effectively for many people, and I find that to be a tried and tested formula for many families over the years.
That's a really smart technique, and that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for sharing that. Brother Bilal, the last point is yours, sir.
I think we have to have hope, and you know, we have to accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree in all matters. And you know, a big part of it is just accepting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed this for us in our time, and a lot of things they're out of our hands, and we will lose more loved ones, unfortunately, in the future. But it's about us submitting our will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree and being content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for us as well. And inshallah, that will give us hope for the future. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to cause our deeds to be lost as well in the hereafter.
Thank you so much. Brothers, we're bang on 7:10. As we said, we'd close then. I'd like to thank both of you. I know Hassan had to go because he's preparing for his Taraweeh tonight. But Brother Shaykh Hammad, can I ask you to just finish with a dua, and then we'll conclude the session for this week, inshallah. But thank you for both of you for sparing your valuable time and giving some wonderful insights on how to tackle these problems. Shaykh Hammad.
آمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم وصل عليه. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Kareem, we ask you from the bottom of our hearts to accept our Ramadan. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept our fasts. Ya Allah, we ask you to allow this month to be a month where we can come closer towards you. Ya Allah, we ask you through this pandemic and this difficulty, Ya Allah, we ask you to allow us to come on the other side of it successfully. Ya Allah, we ask you to grant us goodness in both worlds, grant us goodness in our homes, grant us barakah in our homes, in our lives. Ya Allah, we ask you to bless everybody, all the Muslims across the world, to bless all the teachers who are dedicating their time, effort in teaching and educating the masses. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect our frontline NHS workers. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect all those individuals who are putting out their necks on the line to just save the greater humanity. Ya Allah, we ask you to allow us to come out on this in a more positive manner. أول خير آخر خير ظاهر خير باطن خير بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. فصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah bless you rest of the day. May Allah bless your fast today. May Allah bless the coming weeks. And may Allah bless your family. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.